Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, as you know, we have organized two lectures on organizational behavior, and for discussion on this very topic, we have in studio Dr. Salini Singh. She is Associate Professor at MDU Rohtak and has a specialization in organizational behavior, and about 20 papers have been published in national and international journals, and also 2 books to her credit, and attended a number of conferences on these very topics, and also involved in counseling the police cell Haryana and women protection cell. So I hope his knowledge and experience of this very topic will help us to understand the organizational behavior in new perspective. So on your behalf, I welcome Dr. Salini Singh for EduSet lecture on organizational behavior. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Amrinder. Good afternoon to all of my viewers. Today I am going to deliver a lecture upon nature of organizational behavior. Before I make you people to understand what is organizational behavior, I would like to start with one case study. This is a picture. This is a picture of one organization. From this picture, you can see that in the extreme right-hand side, there is one manager and rest are the employees of that organization. He is Mr. Sanjeev Rana. He did his engineering from a very reputed engineering college. After that, he joined Indian Army, served Army for 7 to 8 years. After that, he took voluntary retirement from the Army, and then he joined one corporate. When he joined one corporate, there he had to serve number of people since he was working as a chief of HR department. Earlier, when he was in defense, he had to tackle the employees who were technical specialists. But when he turned out to be when he became a chief of human resource HRD section, then he had to handle number of people. It was a bit difficult for him. And after that, he had a viewpoint that working in a corporate is little difficult because here we don't need only the conceptual or the basic or the technical skills. We mainly require to have much more human relational skills. So it is very, very important. Basically, before we understand organizational behavior, we need to understand what is organization. An organization is a consciously coordinated unit. It is composed of 2 or more than 2 people who function relatively on the continuous basis to achieve a common set of goals. There are various organizations like school, churches, manufacturing units, service organizations, hospitals, military units. Now basically, organization it is a conglomeration of various individuals who have certain goals before them, and in order to achieve those goals, they have certain mission, they want to they have certain objects and they want to achieve those goals. Now, after that, then comes a behavior. In the organization, when we are working in some setup, we manifest certain kind of activities. And basically, behavior is what? Behavior is a manifestation of any kind of activity. And when we manifest something that is involves both our covert behavior as well as our overt behavior. Now, when we talk about some overt and the covert behavior refers to our external appearance, and covert behavior that what is thinking, what is feeling, what is perceiving, what type of action are we going to take. So when we talk about the behavior and the organization, it becomes a sum total of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior is the study of individual behavior and group dynamics in organizational setting. This is an OB. And this organizational behavior is primarily concerned with the psychosocial, interpersonal and behavioral topics in the organization. Now, one thing which is very, very important when we talk about the organizational behavior, it involves what type of designing in the organization is there, what type of leadership style is there, what type of organization structure is there, and what type of performance appraisal is there, what type of communication is there in the organization. This is very, very important. Now, when we talk about the organizations, these have been described as clock works. This is a particular metaphor which is being used to describe the organizations, and clock works means that whatever the human behavior is taking place in the organization is working in a very smooth, logical and rational manner, and the people who are working in the organization, they perceive it as a snake pits. It is not shake pits, rather they perceive it as a snake pits. When they perceive at the snake pits, they don't perceive the organization as free from conflict or distress, because those people who are working in the organization, they're basically human beings. No doubt they are the basic human assets of the organization, but working there, they do have a conflict with their employees. They do have certain inhibitions from their boss. They do have inhibitions from their reference group, as a result of which we have to analyze the behavior in two aspects, that is internal as well as external. When we do talk about the organizational behavior in the internal context, this means that the employees who are working in the organization, they do bring certain values, certain biographical characteristics, certain attitudes along with them when they join an organization. Now, their biographical characteristics, their age, their gender, their ethnicity, it does interact with the external environment of the organization, which has a great impact upon the productivity and the efficiency of the organization. Then overall, what we want to say, that behavior is a function of two things, that is person and the environment. Now, P here refers to the person and E refers to the environment. Whenever we manifest any kind of activity, P refers to our person, that is a persona which we are carrying in the organization, and E refers to the environment. Now, when we talk about the behavior, it involves the life space, that which person is bringing what type of biographical characteristics along with him, and what type of environment where he is feeling himself conducive. Further, that organization, they doesn't exist in vacuum. Rather, there are various components which really play an important role in influencing the behavior of the employees serving in the organization. That is, it involves mainly four components. If you see this PPT, then we can easily find that there are four basic components. That is a task, then comes people, then comes technology, and then the structure. Task refers to what? Task is involving a mission, certain objectives, certain goals which are to be satisfied. When we have certain objectives with us, then we have to make these objectives fulfilled by the people. People means the employees who work in the organizations at the different hierarchical level, from the boss level up to the lower level. Means there are certain hierarchies which are to be followed. Now, after that, there comes a technology. Technology refers to the techniques, tools, knowledge, and what are the infrastructure which are provided to the employees in the organization. And then there is a formal structuring. Formal structuring refers to whether these all three things, when put in a coordinated manner, in a coordinated unit, that what type of design is there, what type of organizational structuring is there, what type of organizational culture is there. These all four components, when they interact, they are important in bringing the output of an organization. And along with that, this is very important, along with these four components, when we have to bring the result, when we have to bring an output in the organization, it is important to deal with the three basic step processes. And these three steps are involving the input, throughput and output. Input involves some materials, the financial resources, the people we do have. They would be undergoing through a certain process through which a task, structure and technology would be modifying it, and ultimately it will lead to the output. Output in terms of the organizational efficiency, organization's productivity, as well as the employees' efficiency. Then on the basis of that, it was found that these four components of the organization are very, very important, and they play a vital role in the bringing the output of an organization. Earlier, there was one, F.W. Taylor was there, and he was basically a father of the scientific management. In the scientific management, he had been mainly talking about that in order to bring the productivity, high productivity in the organization, labor needs to give a piece rate approach, that whatever the work they do, they need to bring the output according to that. For example, if we give them 100 rupees, whatever the work they have done for 100 rupees, they are accountable to give only for that 100 rupees. So as a result of which no consideration was given to their feelings, their grievances handling, means they were treating labor as a machine, which was very, very bad. No doubt it had increased the productivity, but ultimately employees' efficiency, employees' well-being had really reduced. It led to the emergence of an organization that is a formal organization. After Taylor, although Taylor had found that there was a greater productivity, organizations were doing very well, their turnover was very good, but on the other hand, it was found that their employee turnover had really increased. People had started switching over to other organizations, because when Alton Mayo, he had conducted Hawthorne studies in different experimental settings, he had found that employees' feelings do play a vital role in increasing the productivity of an organization. And in order to increase the productivity of an organization, we are supposed to take a soft corner for the emotions, feelings of the employees. So for that, he had conducted various experiments where proper infrastructure, where proper lighting facilities are to be given. Even the music therapy was also introduced for those people, and a proper redressal program was also made, where the grievances of the labor class, the employees, could be handled. As a result of which, there led to the emergence of another organization that was an informal type of organization. So overall, on the basis of Taylor's and the Hawthorne study, it led to the emergence of two types of organizations, that was a formal type of organizations and the informal type of organizations. When they were formal type of organizations, clear-cut rule regulations were there for the employees, that a formal relationship would be maintained between the boss as well as the employees, and whatever they did have their personal feelings, personal problems, those were not at all discussed before the management. But on the other hand, in case of the informal type of organization, they do have their rule regulations. They were maintaining the decorum, but they were considering, they had a due consideration, they had a soft corner for the employees' feelings. And it was found, when the comparative analysis was done of these two organizations' productivity, it was found that formal organizational people had no doubt they had a higher productivity, but the psychological health of their employees was not at all good. They were not at all happy. They used to come to the organization, but they were never a marry-go-lucky person. On the other hand, employees who were working in the informal type of organization, where no doubt authoritarian leadership along with the nurture task leadership was followed, they were very, very happy, and they were showing a higher productivity. They had a better psychological well-being. Psychologically and physiologically, they were very, very happy. After that, it means that the success of any organization, it depends upon a combination of formal and the informal attitude. Large and small organizations, they operate in each sector of the economy, and mainly one important different sectors on which they do emphasize: private sector, then they do emphasize upon the manufacturing sector, then they do emphasize upon the service sector, then there's a government sector, and then there's a non-profit sector. When they do emphasize upon the manufacturing sector means on the production. For example, steel plant, it is responsible for providing the services to the various automobile industries. Then there comes a service sector, for example, insurance sector, retail store sector, transportation sector. Then comes government sector, for example, Hawthorne, they are dealing with the government, and the government, when we are talking about the government sector, they do provide us various kind of infrastructure facilities. And then comes a non-profit sector. Non-profit sector involves the collective well-being of the employees, not only of the employees, rather taking all the hierarchical levels into account, that is at the individual level, group level, as well as the organizational level. So overall, the organization's success, mainly it depends upon what? It mainly depends when we take all the sectors into account. Now, when we do talk about the learning about the organizational behavior, in nutshell, we have come to know that what is OB and what are the formal and the informal organizations. But as far as if we want to understand before joining any organization, we do have certain inhibitions that what type of organization would be there. Now, how to learn about OB? It involves a three-step approach. First thing is, it is not an scholarly activity. It is a multi-dimensional activity where we need to have, number one, that is a mastery of basic objective knowledge. We need to have the complete acquaintance with the basics of that organization. We need to have that what are the job profiles, basic job profile of all the departments. For example, in one organization, there are various departments. They have a finance department, they do have a HR department, they do have this service sector, they do have a manufacturing unit, that is called a production department. So first of all, it is highly required to get familiar with all these departments. Then second comes, we need to have a development of the skill and the specialization. Now, once we are totally familiarized with that particular environment, with all the departments, since induction has been taking place in all the organization, then we need to be specialized in particular area. For that, organizational behavior plays a vital role in making the employee well versatile, well read in that particular specialized field. Now, when first, that is knowledge of the basics and the knowledge of specialization has taken place, when these two factors club together, it leads to the integration approach, which is called synergy, and when it is called synergy, it leads to the application of that knowledge. Now, for example, if we have made a curriculum, in the curriculum we need to have a complete knowledge of the basics. After that, we get specialized in a particular area, and then how those knowledge about the basics as well as the specialization plays an important role in bringing the output, in making the quality product, in bringing the proper customer satisfaction. This is a basic thing which OB mainly emphasizes upon. Then OB does not exist all alone. It doesn't exist in isolation. Rather, it is a blend of multidisciplinary influences. What it means that organizational behavior has been a product of various disciplines. Now, number one, that is a psychology. Psychology is what? Psychology is a study of the behavior. Here we not only focus upon the behavior, rather we do focus upon the overt internal behavior as well as the external behavior. We do make a comparison between the higher order human beings behavior as well as the lower order human beings behavior. Now, psychology, when psychology has different disciplines like military psychology, clinical psychology, experimental psychology, child psychology, then developmental psychology, there are various areas of psychology. When we do talk about the psychology in the area of OB, psychology has really contributed a lot in the area of OB, like what type of leadership styles, what type of communication patterns, what type of perceptual styles, what type of learning processes, what type of attribution things which are playing a very important role. Now, just focusing upon one aspect, that is a behavior. When we do talk about the psychology in the area of OB, that leadership style plays a vital role in any organization. To grow effective leadership style is very important. So for that, there are different kind of leadership styles. Some go for democratic leadership style, some go for autocratic leadership style, some go for laissez-faire leadership style. It depends upon the individual's delegation of leadership style. Further, this leadership style is totally dependent upon the person's personality pattern, which is an important element of the psychology. Now, what type of personality pattern the person is having, the leader is having, it is going to influence his efficiency in the organization. So in that way, psychology has really contributed a lot in the development of organizational behavior. Then second comes sociology. When we do talk about the sociology, it studies the human behavior in relation to society. When we are working, when we are in a setup where we have to work alone, our behavior is different. But when we are in some group, when we are working in a society, our persona is totally different. Then what type of behavior do we exhibit when we are in a society or in some social setup? That makes a difference. So sociology has also contributed in the emergence of the, or in the rather promotion of the organizational behavior, especially the role set theory, which was given by Merton. It was very, very important, and it had emerged from the sociology. Earlier role set theory was that one individual, when he is working in a social setup or in some setup, he has his own identity, and according to that he is working. But when that individual has done his duty, but when he is shifted to some other setup where earlier he was a boss, but now he is not a boss, rather he has to serve as a subordinate to subordinate in that setup, then he would be in dilemma. What is to be done? That would be role conflict situation. So when there will be role conflict situation, for example, a person who is elderly in the family, he has got a total decision making power. Nobody, even parents, don't do any work without his permission. But when he joins some organization, there he is being treated as a person with a very, very lower hierarchy. Then he has a lot of problem. Like similarly, in a very daily life example, the husband is in a dilemma. when he has to serve, he has to obey the orders of a mother, or when he has to obey the orders of his wife. So in that way, sociology has really helped we people how we really exhibit different kind of behaviors when we are working in a social setup. Then third comes engineering. Engineering has really contributed a lot, especially following the principles of F.W. Taylor, who had talked about this man-machine design, that in that he had talked about that whatever the output we are going to give, it is a totally a piecemeal approach. If a labor, he lifts 100 bricks, in 1 hour he would be getting 250 rupees. So this is a fixed approach, fixed piecemeal approach, that whatever he would be doing, according to that he would be getting the reward. But engineering, man-machine design was very, very important, especially in the concept of the engineering psychology. And OB has really played a very important role in dealing with this engineering concepts. Then comes the anthropology. Anthropology is also very important. It deals with the various cultural values, that what type of organizational culture is prevailing in the organization. When we do talk about the organizational culture, it tells us about the various norms which are really followed by certain people of the organization. Now these norms are totally internally dripped into those people, into totally embedded in the people. If we believe that, if earlier a melting pot approach was used for this particular thing, it was believed that whosoever from any culture, whosoever comes and join the organization, he will be able to accommodate himself with that organization. But now it is not like that. It is what, that whosoever comes in the organization, he has to become familiar with that particular organizational culture. So anthropology has really helped OB in understanding the various cultural beliefs, cultural norms, and the cultural values prevailing in that organization. Then comes the management. Here earlier we had been talking about the developmental aspect. So management is what? How to manage those crises in the organization. No doubt organizations, they do have a different type of targets. People are supposed to fill certain targets. They have a target oriented incentives, and according to that they have to manage the situation. And sometimes the organizations do have various type of conflict. Employees do have the various tasks to do at the same time. So they suffer from various kind of conflicts. Like sometimes there is an approach avoidance conflict, sometimes there is an approach conflict. How to manage those conflict with the help of certain management programs, it is very, very important. Nowadays in the current scenario, various organizations are running their various programs for the higher well-being of the employees, not only of the employees at a higher level but also of their employees at a lower level. Then comes the role of a medicine. Medicine is also a very important area which has contributed in the area of organizational behavior. It tells us that what type of preventive steps are we going to take in case if we want to make ourselves free from that conflict. Johnson & Johnson, they are also launching various programs, like Stay Well program is there for the various employees in the organization, so that they can remain retained in the organization. As you must have seen that nowadays people keep on switching, employees do switch on from one organization to another organization, as a result of which it is leading to, when there is a higher employee turnover, it brings a great loss to the organization itself, as well as a person also has to adjust himself in the different kind of organizational culture. So this is a loss not only to the organization but as well as to the employee set also. So in order to maintain their proper mental set and the physiological set, medicine is playing a very, very important role, where the certain guidelines are being provided to the various organizations, that how wellness programs are to be run, how the various facilities are to be provided in terms of management of the various organizations. So this was about that OB is a blend of various disciplines. Now, which is very, very important in the nature of organizational behavior is that majority of we people are going into the corporate sectors, and we have a general belief that in the corporate life is very tough. Person has to work from morning till evening, late night evening. We don't have a quality time for us, as a result of which our family life gets disturbed. Even the couple doesn't have the time for each other to share anything. They don't have a time to rear up their kids. But this is not the story. In case if all the organizations do take due consideration about the wellness programs, about the various individual differences of employees who are working in the organization, if their ethnicity is being taken into consideration, if due importance is being given to their feelings, to their motives, to their structuring, to their incentives. This is also very important. It will be very important for the employees' well-being as well as for the organization. In one study, recently one study was conducted in the United States where they were focusing upon there was a viewpoint by the CEO of that organization. They had stated that it is very, very important to understand the behavior of an individual from the internal perspective as well as from the external perspective, because for example, they had quoted one CEO as example, Mary, she's an outstanding employee. She is rather considered as a basic nutshell, she is considered as a base of that organization. Why? Because she is an outstanding employee, because she has a higher need for achievement. When she has a high need for achievement, it means that organization is giving due importance to the internal characteristics of that employee. On the other hand, external perspective, when we see, she is really in demand because, and she is really hardworking employee of that organization. Why? Because she is getting lot of incentives from the organization for the work which she has been doing. No doubt that US study focused upon that only the fringe benefits and salary benefits don't play an important role in the organizations, in the organizational retainment of the employee. Rather, there are some other things also which play a very important role in the life of the employees, that is in relation to their well-being, what type of infrastructure, how their well-being is enhanced, and what type of supportive environment is being given in the organization. It is very, very important. With this, I sum up my lecture. Thank you very much.
Okay, as you said that there are chances of individual differences. How can their need be taken care of while we go for the study of any organization and we want to improve the productivity of the organizations?
Yeah, for increasing the productivity of the organization, as far as you talk about the individual characteristics, their biographical characteristics need to be checked before they join any organization. Psychological testing as well as physiological testing is very, very important. Their aptitude test is very important, whether they are fit for that particular job or not. Now, for example, if we want to take some employee in a section which is for the HR, but the person doesn't have the good human relational skill, so that individual characteristic doesn't fit with him. So for that, it is very, very important to go for the personal selection before that person joins the organization.
Okay, and one more thing, as you said, the multidisciplinary influences.
Exactly.
You included psychology, sociology, engineering, anthropology, management, medicine, but one of the major part that plays a communication. You have not added, knowingly you have not added, or
no, as far as when we talk about the communication, it is an important aspect which is being included in the psychology. In the psychology, we do talk about the communication. Here we do talk about the upward communication, downward communication. If the communication is two-way, that is, the pattern is, you must have heard about the Delphi technique of decision making. When we have to take some decision, we have to show a communication pattern which is upward as well as downward. Majority of the organizations go for the only upward communication, as a result of which there remains a certain gap. If there's a free flow of communication, then definitely it can play a very important role, and that parameter is widely included in the psychology.
okay, it has been seen that despite taking all these things into account, some of the organization does not work properly. Their behavior means they don't go in the right way, or the performance after sometimes that is not up to the mark. So why it happens so?
What you want to say is that no doubt
Monotony, or there is
no,
certain.
there's not, I won't say there's a monotonous or any kind of boredom in the organization. There are certain code of conduct for any organization. Sometimes what we normally do, that management does not take ethics into account. They don't mention that whatever and wherever the employee feels comfortable, they don't give due importance to the employee's feelings. So for that, there are various organizations like Chaparral Steel, Valero Energy. They are conducting various wellness programs. Now, for example, if an employee is coming into an organization and his mood is not happy, he had a great fight with his spouse at home, definitely he would be bringing all his inhibitions, all his negative thoughts in the organization, and it will be transferred on his work. So for that, they are really feeling that wellness programs, time to time executive development programs, time to time wellness programs are really required for the wellness of those employees, so that they can show the higher productivity in the organization.
The wellness program include how Can you explain?
Yeah, wellness programs involves not the physiological testing, rather it involves a psychological making the employee psychologically very happy. His well-being gets like, for example, if he has got anxiety, if he has got some sort of tension, they would be making them to teach art of living. They would be giving certain modules to them how to remain happy and how to make yourself pleasant, how to reduce the mental agony. Various tips are also given, and on the basis of the testing is being given that where is the lacuna, that where they are falling, they are lagging behind. So on the basis of that module, on the basis of those development programs, they can be very, very happy and they can show better efficiency in the organization.
So many studies have been conducted and also being conducted about the performance and organization behavior. In a few study, it has been come that the organization behavior which is traditional they have followed, they perform better.
Okay.
They perform better. And in case of, you say, when we were going through the financial crisis in 2008 or 2009, economic crisis world over. So the people said that Indian bank sustained because of the old traditional method they follow, that why we sustains. So because we see it another way, they were not productive as we compare to the private banks. They were more productive and more performance oriented 3 or 4 years back, but in those years they sustains. So how a psychologist will explain this?
Now, when we do talk about this performance in relation to the economic crisis, as you said that traditional leadership style, I would go for that. Sometimes earlier during the British times, there was a do or die approach. That was a authoritarian leadership style. But nowadays, people do have this, they don't like this leadership style. Rather, they say that nurture and task leadership style is to be followed because it is going to increase the performance of the organization. In the sense, at certain time periods where the leader needs to be nurturant, he has to follow that approach, and where, as far as the task is concerned, where the duties are concerned, he has to be task oriented. But as far as economic crisis is concerned, sometimes when we do here, I would like to attribute one thing, that is incorporate one thing, that is a behavior pattern, personality pattern. Those people who believe in a type A behavior pattern, they always go for that authoritarian leadership style. They create stress in the environment. On the other hand, type B people, they are very relaxed and easygoing people. Now, as far as a performance in any organization is concerned, again I would be summing up with that only, that somewhere authoritarian leadership style is very good. Traditional leadership styles are very good. No doubt we are running various wellness programs, but those wellness programs doesn't mean that we are not going to follow the traditional rule regulations, because when now in family also we claim ourselves to be very modernized. But when we talk about the value system, we still do talk about that joint families are still very better as compared to the nuclear families, as far as the quality time is concerned, as far as the communication pattern is concerned. So definitely performance of an organization definitely focuses upon the traditional leadership style and the traditional style of management.
So does it create a conflict in also conflict sort of the problem in organization, traditional thinking and the modern way of performance?
No, for example, earlier we had a very those employees who are not ready to cope up with this computer, but now they have to adapt to it. So for that, which is very, very important as a psychologist, adaptability needs to be there. Now, if we want to show a high performance of the organization, something has to be followed in between. Middle approach, which is called an eclectic approach, is to be followed. Something has to be taken up from the traditional method, and something needs to be incorporated from the modern management. So if we take a mixed kind of approach, it is going to show very good results for the performance of an organization.
Mixed kind of approach means engagement of the organizational
right.
people.
Like for example, if we introduce a light music where the job is very monotonous in the production unit, if we introduce light music so that the no monotony and no boredom is there, it means that the work is also going on, as well as some therapy is also being given to them. Similarly, if all the time, instead of using dictatorship, all the time you give autonomy to the labor or to the employees, if they get autonomy, they feel themselves that we are really part of this culture, we are a part of this organization, and management does have a they have a trust upon us. So this kind of feeling we need to inculcate in them by providing a very conducive organizational climate. So if there is an organizational conducive and the harmonious organizational climate, the relationship would be very good, and it is going to increase the performance as well as productivity of the organization.
As you were talking about the Taylor concept,
Yeah.
so they have also fixed remuneration and etc. They have decided. So that now what is the participatory mode of perception? So how one can match here? Because both principles are good at different situations.
Actually, it is all situational. If we have to, at the time of crisis, for example, I have got some consignment from some Europe countries and I have to fulfill those targets within a time period of 15 days. At that time, it is very, very much important to follow Taylor's principle. Definitely, at the time of crisis, we need to follow that principle, that whatever the work you would be doing, according to that, you are going to get the incentives. We need to inculcate the motivation in them. Okay, definitely, if you work for 2 hours, you will be getting a remuneration of this much amount. So this is very important. But when we do talk about the feelings, at that time, when we are in a daily core routine jobs, then we need to follow the another approach, that is the Elton Muir's principles. But overall, Elton Muir's principles are very good for maintaining the psychological wellness of the employees. But at the time of crisis, Taylor's principles they have proved to be very useful, and they are really very, very productive.
Okay, in conflict between decision making like leadership and organizational ethics, decision, some certain things demands fast decisions. So in that case, they are in conflict with organizational ethics. So what action they should take?
It is a big challenge that how to maintain the ethical issues in the organization. No doubt we have certain norms, we have certain moral values which we need to follow, that this is right, this is wrong. But at the time of crisis, now for example, a person is there and he needs an immediate medication and the immediate medical facilities, we don't have to think twice or thrice. We go for an action. So at the time of the crisis, it is very, very important that we have to take a do or die or immediate approach is required. So at that time, no eclectic approach, rather which is an authoritarian approach needs to be taken.
How do you see organizational behavior in government setup in India?
In government sector?
Yeah. Any study have carried out or must have been carried out? And
I can give you an example of the various organizations which are being done. Normally, we have a general belief that in the government sector, organizational behavior is not that good, general. And in the private sector, people do have belief, since everybody is involving a cutthroat competition, there is a do or die approach, but it is not like that. It depends upon the personality of the employees who work in the organization. If you see the employees who are in the government sector, if there are workaholic people and they are very relaxed, they would go to the department, they would take their classes for an hour, or they will not take the classes. There are so many people also, they won't take the classes and they would come back from the classes and they would chit chat in the department, they won't take the classes. So it depends upon the individual characteristics, it depends upon the personality pattern of the person, that how much committed you are to the organization. If in any organization, I tell you that if you are committed to that organization, so on that basis we cannot make. Otherwise, all studies prove that in the private organization, commitment is more, but in the government sector it is not more. Maybe because of some job security, people do attribute it, but again there are large differences, and there are significant differences which prove that in the government sector also there are so many people who are doing very well in the organizations. Now you see, there are so many government organizations which are really doing very well. It is a result of those people who are delegating good leadership styles and those who are committed to the organization.
So my question was precisely about the stress. At one place we find the stress-free environment. At another place we find the stress, more stress.
But no doubt, in the private sector there is a more stress. Maybe because of management style, maybe management approach, as well as one factor which is very important in the private sector is that people do have a low job security, but in the government sector we do have a good job security, and on the basis of the job security people do have that type of stress is not there. Otherwise, I tell you, moderate level of stress is highly required.
In this case, how will you explain the Maslow need hierarchy theory?
In the case of stress-free environment.
Because they will say the security is first.
Exactly. If you go make a comparison between Maslow's theories and Adler ERG theory, then they are a little bit different. Because once he says that once you have satisfied physiological needs, Maslow says physiological needs satisfied, then you go for the security, then you go for the self-esteem and at last self-actualization. But if you take Adler ERG theory, he doesn't say that once you have satisfied your basic need, only then you will be going for the next need. He says that if you go for the satisfaction, if you haven't met the satisfaction of the basic need, means if you have satisfied 3 basic needs out of the 4 basic needs, then you can switch over to the next one. So as far as Maslow's needs is concerned, people in the private sector, they go up to the satisfaction of more and more higher needs, but the people in the government sector, they limitize themselves. But nowadays the scenario has changed, because by looking at the people working in the corporate sectors, they have also started switching over up to the self-esteem recognition needs. But as far as self-actualization is concerned, need is concerned, that requires more charismatic qualities.
One more thing which of importance, that performance, those who perform better, they are provided leadership. But in certain case, is it right to do this? Because leadership requires not only performance, another attributes are also required. So, but in private sector generally, it's those perform better, they are given leadership.
When we talk about a leader is a torch bearer of the whole organization. If the in the private sector, as you stated, that the person who performs, according to that he is getting a leadership, he is supposed to delegate. But it is not like that. For a good leader, one needs to take a whole team along with him. If he has that ability to lead as well as to take his followers into account in his according to his path where he is going, only then this should be done. Otherwise, it should not be like that.
How will you differentiate between a leader and manager in 2 organizations?
A leader is the one who leads a group, who is leading the group. He is only leading the group without bothering about the grievances or the feelings or the emotions of the followers. But a person who is managing the situation, now for example, if I believe being a psychologist, I am in the area of HRD. No, for management, people are there to manage everything. There are so many crises in the organization, there are so many problems in the organization. A leader can see the problems, but the manager would be able to manage them. There is a conflict in one organization, leader will be able to see those conflicts. But as far as the resolution of those conflicts and the problems concerned, manager would be able to handle it properly, because he has much more conceptual, technical as well as human relations skills. But as far as the leader is concerned, he has the ability to lead the group.
What is good for the organization? Is it good being a good leader or being a good manager?
Again, I would be saying a leader with the management skills would bring the fruitful results for the organization.
Means a manager could be made a leader, or the leaders, if we put this way, because the manager, one can acquire the skill of managerial skill. But as it is said that leaders are born.
Leaders are born, not made.
Yeah, so a manager can be made a leader or not in organizational setup? Manager can be made a leader or not?
Manager can be made a leader, but leaders are born.
Leaders are born.
But I tell you, leading the whole group, if you have a good human relations skill, then also, recently a book has been launched, just means when we have talked about the psychological capital, in that they had stated, no doubt we do agree, leaders are born, not made. But a manager can also be made a good leader. Manager with the good, if he has got all these knowledge about the various interventions and the management skills, he can be a good leader also. But first of all, he needs to have a proper management skills and the human relation skills in order to take the whole team along with him.
Okay. So what your suggestion, what your, you can say that to make the organization more productive, more fruitful, what precaution an organizational head should take?
Organizational heads, they need to take a proper viewpoint of the employees. Before they take any kind of decision in the organization, one thing, complete autonomy is to be given to the employees of that organization. Number 2, they need to have an eclectic approach. The free flow of communication is also very important. They should not only trust upon what their immediate subordinate has stated regarding his subordinates. So there should be a free flow of communication. Another thing, due consideration should be given to the well-being of the employees. Well-being of the employees means that if we do talk, we do spend some brief quality time or informal interaction with the employees, definitely it will give him a touch that definitely we are being taken as a part of an organization. This is also very important. And then instead of always following the autocratic leadership style, there should be a nurturing kind of leadership style. If there is a crisis in the organization and we have to fulfill the targets within a very short time period of time, then autocratic leadership style is okay. But otherwise, nurtured approach is to be there, because normally it is also said for the kids also that spare the rod and spoil the child. Nowadays, one thing which is very important is with love, caring and affection, with the affectional touch, more and more productivity can be increased in the organization. And the proper designing, another thing, proper infrastructure, proper designing of the machines and due considerations to the feelings is also very, very important for bringing the organizations up to a higher level.
Corporate is going to change even when it came to corporate social responsibility. So, corporate social responsibility came into being. After this, how you foresee the corporate will change its organizational behavior? Because previously it was only on the profit performance, but now they are also being sensitized toward the society, where they are having their offices or the organization set up. So in this, you see, in coming years there could be another sort of the organizational behavior come into place.
Yeah, definitely. Since all, as I told you, that the majority of the people are moving to the corporate sector. When we talk about the social responsibility, corporates are responsible to the society and they are accountable to the society. Society does ask so many things. As you must have seen the Satyam computers also, the society was really asking that what type of actions have been done by these people. So with the passage of time, we need to keep it into account that we need to maintain the ethical issues, we need to maintain a code of conduct, and for increasing that the social response, it is the duty of the organization to be responsible to the society, and at last they will be accountable to it. And this is a very new section which is going to emerge.
So we can say that the people who are money driven, a profit driven organization, now their time is gone now.
Their time is gone, and definitely they do have to consider the society as well as the employees who work in the organization if they want to grow, if they really want to grow. So for a long term.
So we can see another in the beginning, I say after the independence, like Tata, Birla, they were opening schools, temples, etc. They were also providing houses. So we can again see this kind of changes in coming years.
I hope so. I hope so.
Because changes are like this.
But up to if they start setting up social institutions, this is okay. This is very good. Even various organizations have started the wellness programs. They have started their own child care systems for the female employees. Definitely, these things are going to pay them in terms of like you remain stress free. And as far as when you talk about the various social institutes they are going to start, it is going to bring a good result. In case if they, but not all the organizations, the people who have the renowned name in the world, they can start with that.
Okay, so how that will affect the organizational behavior principles which are being followed so far?
As far as I tell you, by establishing the various religious institutes or various other organizations, it is not going to have much impact upon the employees' performance directly if we see, but definitely this is one thing which is very, very important is by establishing one temple at one setup, or by establishing other religious institute in some other factory. It doesn't mean that your whole personality would change or your whole persona would change. It might bring good results. We are quite hopeful it might bring good results, but with the passage of time it might be possible in case if they are not maintaining the ethics in the organization, then it is not going to produce any positive outcome.
Means working as style be modern and the welfare orientation.
Yeah, exactly.
With that will come forward. So as you also people talk about the health related issues, which are more of concern of the corporate sector employee. They are going through the high BP and etc. Other stress related diseases. So those things, wellness program certainly will improve it, take care of these things. But you say the pattern of recruiting means staffing. If they talk about it that before the recruitment you go through the whole health profile and accordingly you manage them. So some organization may also be following. So in this case, you see some of those people who are not good enough, they would miss the bus.
Yeah, it's like that. Various organizations, they are conducting various programs before they make the employees to join the organization. They go for the proper psychological and the physiological testing, and this is very important also because as far as missing the bus is concerned, it is not necessarily a person who has a high stress level. According to that person would not be fit in the organization. He can be given some other department where the nature of task is partially with the daily routine activities as compared to that person who is maintaining a moderate level of stress, and but with that level of stress he can go for the public relation job. So for that, this would give them a great insight that where the particular person is to be fit in and where he has to go to that department. So this is really, it is the need of an hour says that before a employee goes to an organization, he needs to have a proper personal selection and the placement.
So what is the contemporary practices in the Indian setup?
Nowadays in Indian setup also, since various organizations are like in Gurgaon and in this various Bangalore, they go for the personal selection, they go for the psychological testing, they go for the various modules of their personality testing, they do measure their physiological like stress level, stamina level, their BMI are being measured and their blood pressure is being measured. Then the psychological testing, they go for this aptitude test, and they do go for this Minnesota multiple personality inventory. They go for that Ising, that whether the person is extrovert or introvert. So normally these things are followed, and especially before they get selected in the interview session also. First of all, they have to after screening they go for the psychological testing. In the next session they go for the GDs, and third section they go for that where they are to be fit.
So what are the important measures which are taken to improve the efficiency of the employee in corporate sector? One is of course this wellness, what you said.
Right.
And then
another thing, his personality. What are his basic personality characteristics? If the person, this can be done like nowadays what various organizations are doing, they go for various induction programs. In the induction programs, they are made familiar with all the departments. Along with that, these organizations, they go for the what you want to ask?
Efficiency, how
efficiency, like in case if the congenial atmosphere is being given, all the time the organizational people, they are always creating a stress, the person will not be comfortable. So this is very, very important for the efficiency of the organization, that the happiness is to be increased. Not very high targets are to be, for example, a person who has joined the organization and he is very young and at the same time he is having lot of pressure, so this is also bad. So a moderate level of pressure is to be put on him. Then there should be free flow of communication. I don't say the free flow of communication means that directly he has to go to his go and report to the vice president. No, certain hierarchy is to be there, but with the hierarchy there should be a certain free flow of communication, so that where he also feels very comfortable with his boss. Then another thing, team spirit is to be there. Another thing, autonomy is to be given to him. And then
sharing of
his then another thing which is being measured, that what type of where he is being fit in, what is I would say, what are the infrastructure facilities to him provided to him, whether the environment is conducive to him or not. Now, in somewhere we see that the various organizations, they don't provide the proper infrastructure to the employees, and sometimes there is some communication gap also, which also creates a lot of problems. So in order to increase the efficiency of an employee in the organization, these are the various things which are very important, like proper leadership style to be delegated, and especially in the starting, as far as when he's in the probation period, definitely we do need to have a soft corner from all the people who work in the organization for that employee.
Okay. So, well friend, as Dr. Salini said that even in the beginning, more pressure will not lead to the efficient employee. So very better is to give a moderate pressure, and
Exactly.
with passage of time one will learn the nuances of organization and will perform better. So we like to conclude the lecture here, and as you know, tomorrow we'll have another lecture on this very topic. So I thank all of you for watching this lecture, and on your behalf I thank Dr. Salini Singh for giving such a wonderful lecture on organizational behavior. Thank you very much.
Thank you.